Hello all, it's the Old Geek, and I've got in front of me another issue of The Dragon. If you didn't see my last White Dwarf read through, I said that I would be completing 1979 regarding the magazines, and then I'll take a little bit of a break from the read throughs. This is Dragon 31, this is the next one in my Dragon series. This is November 1979, even though it doesn't say that clearly at the top, it's missing the year at the top of this issue. But I can assure you it is November 1979. So there's two more dragons to read through, November and December, and then I'll have a little bit of a break from these. Right, let's see what this issue of The Dragon has in store. The Dragon's been pretty good lately. What do we make of this cover? It's a very minimal cover in terms of information. That role-playing adventures in the jungle should have been moved a bit lower so that in the jungle bit doesn't clash with that bright blue. Moved a bit lower, it would have been good. I like the way the dragon motif at the top, the wording, lettering stands out more against the background. As for the cover itself, we're talking about role-playing adventures in the jungle. This works. It's not at the same standard as the White Dwarf covers, clearly, but it works for the purpose, and that interesting sky does make it stand out, even if the grey to blue to green to yellow to red and back to blue to dark at the top. Even that, if that's done quite simplistically, it does stand out. So yeah, it's a tentative thumbs up. It's not terrible. Valpartha adverts have been getting better. They have been getting better. I'm glad they've made the pictures of the pictures of the models bigger and clearer. You can see Valpartha, a good model. I mean, this guy on the horseback, it's a quality model. So cover to cover. Welcome to the format change. A new column in the Dragon. Hi, I'm Jake, and this is cover to cover. Now that the introductions are out of the way, you're probably wondering what happened to kindly editor Tim Kask and Dragon Rumbles. Fear not, you'll find Tim rumbling on the next page explaining why he's there. Cover to cover will be in this spot each month. There will be a review preview of each month's contents. This is a good idea. This is a good idea. Tim Kask's editorials are a good read, but it's nice to have something more functional at the start, explaining what all the features are. And here is a list of the contents. We've got fiction, we've got a jungle fever article, Fantasy Smith's notebook, How Tall is a Giant, Sage Advice, Sorcerer's Scroll, The Omen's Tiny Huts back again, Surefire Strategy for Third Reich, Dragon's Bestiary, variants. Can Jason destroy the dragon ship? Spicing up Stellar Conquest, a new profession for EPT, The Creature That Ate Shebogan, Indian Ocean Adventure, Fourth Dimension, Battle of Maiwand. Those are reviews. Bit of Wormy, background, Armour of the Far East, Lankmar and the original game and what it became. And then you've got the regular stuff towards the bottom. This looks quite... Yeah, they've made the magazine pretty big. I mean, how many pages is this one? 56. So they're packing it with a lot of stuff. Occasionally you get an issue which feels like it's filler, but as long as the filler to killer ratio is decent, then all is good. So you don't mind a bit of nonsense you're not going to read in a 56-page magazine. So they have Jake with his introduction. Good idea. Now we've got Tim Kask. The Dragon has been undergoing a gradual facelift in recent months, and it needed it. Yeah, it did need it. And making some policy changes as well. In this issue, we have initiated two of the most significant alterations with the introduction of cover to cover and the redefining and movement of this column. Okay, so it's compartmentalizing the magazine a little better. I prefer this sort of layout bit here, this information panel down the side. Allows you to see. Oh, art stuff. Errol Otis. What if there's some Errol Otis artwork in this? We'll find out. There's some Darlene as well. Okay, let's continue. Oh no. Continued on page 22. You can stop doing that. Right, here's a bit of artwork. Troll's Head, an excerpt from an upcoming novel by a master of fantasy, John Eric Holmes. He did the Holmes edition of D&D, didn't he? Yeah. Maybe I'll read through that. Tell you what. Thinking of things to do in the future. If I get the shorter stories from Dragon and read them for the channel, anybody interested in that? Let me know. Okay, this is the jungle thing. Notice how there's more colour already in these. Civilizations from high to low. Oh, it's called Jungle Fever. Jungle Fever. And the snake thing. I like that. A vacation spot. Certainly not. No. I mean, I wouldn't mind spending a few days jungle trekking, just around the edge, just to get an idea of just how horrible and bitey and sticky and unpleasant the place is. And then I just like to leave it alone. Because, and I wish, I'm going all eco on people now, I wish we could leave the jungles alone. Because there's so much nature there. And it feels wrong to exploit them for their resources because they are so beautiful. And I wouldn't want to live there, but sometimes we need to live in balance with the nature on the planet. And I think the jungle should be left alone. There we go. Said my piece. Miniature masterpieces. I couldn't give a rat's ass about Antarctica. Plunder that to your heart's content. There's only a few stupid penguins who live there. Now, the penguins are cool, but the centre of Antarctica is pretty much inhospitable, isn't it? Right. 5th Annual Strategist Club Banquet and Awards. Right. Yeah, keep going. D&D is alive and well in Houston. A NanCon. So the convention report. Village of Homlet. T1, the first of 2 modules. Oh, innocent child. Of course, T2, T3, T4 would never see the light of day as separate modules, and you'd end up getting T1 to 4, which was a somewhat bastardized version of Gygax's notes cobbled together in a short time frame by Frank Menser, and bringing up a module that divides us. Some people think it's the greatest mega dungeon ever. Others think it was a bit of it's overly cumbersome on the DM. It's a bit of a behemoth, and that T1 Village of Homlet is the best part. I fall in the latter camp. I've never run T1 to 4 in its entirety. I've run bits of it. Nulb is underwhelming, incomplete, and I've never felt the urge to run the temple itself. Sorry. But T1 is beautiful. Will Jason destroy the dragon ship? Stay tuned. Alpha Omega. It's sci-fi. Moving on. Spicing up Stellar Conquest. How to add native life and fate to your worlds. Okay. More sci-fi stuff. Continuing onwards. Oh, this is the civilizations of the jungle. Of course, yeah, there were those who made the jungle their home and adapted to it. South America, yeah, Africa, various tribes, and of course Central America. I mean, it was jungle in Central America where the Aztecs pretty much ran a reign of terror against their neighbours. But it's a very alien culture compared to what we're used to. We do paint them as being hideously evil, and by our own social standards, a lot of what they did was very, very brutal. Whether they deemed it to be necessary, we didn't live with them, did we? We didn't experience it with them. They were conditioned in a very, very different way to how we were, or how we are. I mean, European medieval culture was pretty brutal by comparison of nowadays the Western world. But from the stories, also, you never quite know exactly what to believe because history is always written by the victors. So, and it was in the Spaniards' best interests to paint the Aztecs as being as much a polar opposite of Christian values, because of course Spain was a very Catholic country. I mean, to paint them as being as nasty as possible because it gave them validation. And was it the Spaniards? Well, the Spaniards officially defeated the Aztecs, but they did it inadvertently, largely using smallpox. Chemical warfare, pretty much. We move on. The continuation of there's a lot of scattering of articles. Not a fan. Not a fan. Too much scattering. Look, it continues again. You've got this professional new layout, and I've liked what I've seen so far, but I do wish you'd get a grip on quite how badly the articles are scattered and quite how irritating it is. I get that newspapers and cheesy magazines would do this sort of thing, but you need to rise above that. Jungle creatures. Partial listing of those to be found in the AD&D Monster Manual, reprinted with the permission of the author. It's in Gygax's best interest, really, to have these reprinted in here because it helps sell his product. Where's the giraffe headline? I would argue that giraffes are not jungle creatures. They live on the plains of Africa. They're not jungle. Same goes for hippos. Spelt incorrectly. Hippos, very much the savannah, watering holes. Lions, always known as the king of the jungle, they don't live in jungles. Rhinos don't live in jungles. There's some problems here. Is this a bit of a misconception? Jungle creatures, monkeys, wild pigs, insects. You'd assume giant variants of these. Snakes, lizards. These are the sort of things you want. The jaguar, yes, the jaguar is a jungle creature, and so is the tiger in Asia. Those are the sort of things. Lion, no. Rhino, no. Hippo, no. Giraffe, no. This is coming from a geography graduate. Anyway, so yeah, a bit of a I like the fact you've put creatures in there, but it's a bit of a crap selection, I'm afraid. You've screwed that up. Your definition of jungle is wrong. How tall is a giant? In which the old fantasy smith says he helps his friends. Decide for yourselves, gentle readers. But beware! Elf, dwarf, gnome, pixie. Human, be up here. Oh, is it sort of like... If you were to see a person and say, whoa, he's a giant, it's not just height that comes into it. It's overall body size. My best mate at school always looked taller than actually was. He was about 6'3", 6'4", but he was in proportion. He had massive hands, big shoulders. He was a big, big guy. There's a guy who comes in my shop. He must be 6'7", 6'8". And he openly admits that he's overweight and unfit. And he's 6'7", 6'8", and he's overweight. You can just imagine what a big guy he is. He's a lovely guy, real gentle giant, and I would describe him as being a giant of a man because he is so big. So, in the same way as someone who's 6'7" and lanky a giant? No, I don't think so. I think it's about being bodily proportions matter. Anyway, let's move on. I, of course, have bodily proportions in the opposite way. I'm short and stumpy. And see how these giants are depicted. I always picture fire giants as being very sturdy. I don't like this artwork of a fire giant here. They are stronger than frost giants. They are sturdy. They are broad giants. So, yeah, they are shorter, but make them... Fire giants always felt to me like giant dwarfs. Similar sort of build. Heavily armed. Storm giant's massive, yeah. Look at the size of his feet. Feet are out of proportion there. If those are meant to be feet. Okay. Here's a convention schedule and rumbles. Continues from page 2. Cover to cover. Continues from page 1. Like, yeah, it's... Yeah. Can you see why I get frustrated with them being scattered everywhere? I'm trying to read through. I don't want to be flicking backwards and forwards. Armour of the Far East. Sort of splints, isn't it? They had a lot of layers of splints over the top of each other. Gold lacquered steel scales composed of more... Yeah. It's scales. It was about the flexibility, wasn't it? I mean, I think there's something mightily impressive about that suit of armour. I don't know how effective it was. It probably was very effective because of the way the overlapping scales work. Any downward blows would be well deflected. Straight thrusts, you'd have to hit the gaps. Good neck protection. Dubious helmet. Dubious footwear. But yeah, I mean, that looks like that suit of armor looks like it would be quite flexible and give good protection. So this is a historical article talking about how armor changed over the years in the Far East. Nice, lovely. This sort of thing is really helpful for gamers. Tell us your fantasies. No, I'm not going to tell you my fantasies, and I don't want to know yours. Thank you very much. Sage advice from Gene Wells. All right. First instalment of a new feature in the Dragon, which will answer questions about D&D or AD&D. Gene Wells, of course, did the original version of B3, the one that wasn't released. That was a little bit dodgy, quality-wise and content-wise. But she's involved. Yeah, it says here she's involved in the design team, so knows her stuff. A couple of friends and I are planning on taking over our DM's island. So far, our plan is working. Unfortunately, we've encountered some problems. What we want to know is how to spawn orcs. We're in an army at the moment. Answer. Orcs are mammals and therefore do not spawn. I disagree, Gene. I like to think that most orcs are spawned from the blood of their evil deity, Grumsh. I mean, they can reproduce, and I'd imagine they do so in a mammalian fashion, but I believe they can be created. Spawned, if you were. So there. But there's quite a few questions there. A few pages worth. A new profession for Empire the Petal Throne, the Adventurer. Okay. Books are books and games are games, and never the twain shall meet. It's about not heroic fantasy novels. Yeah, use them as inspiration, but don't expect your game to be the same as the novel, or don't even work out remotely similar to the novel. I think there's a little bit too much emphasis on novel-like story with a lot of modern games. Create the story, let the dice really sort of decide the story beats, and don't script too much. All good things must end. Deadly determinations for an AD&D character's fate. Leoman's tiny hut. Oh. I quite like this. So when you're badly wounded in combat, there can be lasting effects. Chance of mutilation, chance of scarring, loss of strength and dex bonuses. Right, hit points after combat. What if you've got a character with 3 hit points, gets hit for 1 point of damage? Loss of strength and dex bonuses? No. If you're going to introduce that sort of thing, have it down in the depths. -5, if you're using the -10 variant, -5, -6, down below there. Have those sort of effects then. That's coming in far too high. I think there's an assumption there. I mean, of course, he might clarify it in the article. But it looks like there's an assumption there that people go into combat with more hit points. But loss of consciousness, chance of scarring, mutilation, chance of death. Yeah. Though in AD&D, your chance of death at -5 wasn't 100% if you received help. So it has to be some receiving help. Regrow a finger or toe? We don't regrow. Look, if I was to chop this finger off, it would not regrow. Or is that regrow from a regeneration spell? Maybe. I might be jumping to conclusions. Anyway, interesting little article. Making combat a lot more bloody. This is the Adventurer class EPT. This is something about Lankmar. One of the first fantasy series of novels I read when I was a kid. I read most of them. Well, I remember reading a few. I don't know if that's most of them. I never checked to see how many there were. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I enjoyed them when I was a kid. A surefire way for the Third Reich. Okay, so you're changing the German tactics, I guess. So what game is this? The General. Oh no, that's a magazine. What game is it referring to? Oh, is Third Reich the name of the game? Okay. So these are tactics for the Third Reich game, which of course, I'm not a war gamer, so I don't know anything about. Out on a limb, Paladin Paradox. I would like to comment on Carl Palagreco's alignment chart in the June of the Dragon, where the use of poison attacking of unarmed foes is shown as a function of alignment. Seems to me that these actions would depend on the individual's chivalry rather than his alignment. Yeah, in early D&D, paladins had to be lawful good, and to be honest, I don't think that should ever have been changed. I don't mind the idea of having a chivalrous or a code of chivalry which is adjusted to alignment, but the title of paladin should be reserved for the lawful good. I think they did something like that. So you had a different title for the knight of each alignment and a different code. That sort of thing is interesting. But you're not a paladin if you're not lawful good. It is as simple as that. And if you're lawful good, it does a use of poison and attacking of unarmed foes. You're on very dodgy territory. So Robert Plamondon, no. And yeah, it's impossible for paladins to do the type of despicable deed you describe and still retain exalted status. Tim Kask is correct. Tim Kask is 100% correct. And anyone who's arguing against that is wrong. There. Ooh, this is a bit of a... Look at it. Moving on from that sort of thing. Tribes of Crane. That's an advert. Troll's Head, continued from page 3. This is the story. Yeah, so you had a short amount of the story earlier on, and then most of it later on. Stupid! See, there's about 5 or 6 pages later on. Dungeon Master's Guide advert. That's the worst fanfare you'll ever hear. Available now wherever better games are sold. Yes. Yeah. Tell them you saw it in the Dragon. Winter of Fantasy. Another TSR mini convention. Look, there's a lot of conventions going on. Good. Good. More conventions. All the conventions. Why was it only 8 till midday on the Saturday, then most of it on the Sunday? I mean, and getting up at 8 a.m. on a Sunday? I only see 10 a.m. on a Sunday if I have to go to work, which is every alternate Sunday. I have to be at work. I work 10 till 4 every Sunday. Then I come home from work, have a quick bite to eat, chill for maybe 20 minutes, and then I start on my second job, which I then goes through till midnight. That's me every Sunday at the moment. But forcing gamers to get up at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning, that's wrong. In fact, Saturday as well. Maybe I'm just a lazy ass. Here's some reviews. Right, I'm not going to pause on the reviews here. I'm just going to keep going because I am aware that this read-through has been taking a long time. That is a good thing. That means there's been a lot in this magazine for me to talk about. We still haven't got Dragon's Bestiary. We're still 4 pages from the end. The Jungle Hydra. Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know what it does. The Ukuyatangi. Yeah, but that's a really good idea. Really, really good idea. Only one creature. That's a shame. That's a shame. But there's lots written for it. It's not these short little chunks you get sometimes. It's being given. I like the idea of that. Dragon classified ads. Here's Wormy. I will pause for you to read it. There you go. You'll get a chance to read it. But as I say, this has been a long read through. A long old read through, which is a good thing. It means a lot of things have got my attention. There've been a lot of talking points, and a lot of different topics are in there, and that is exactly what you want. And so I'm going to say now, the Dragon, 56 pages. You, with 56 pages of this sort of material, you are guaranteed to find something of interest. Fantastic. Thumbs up. Well done, Dragon. Enjoyed that.